come to his laboratory and see what all the fuss is about. The family car's been banished because the garage has become home for his inventions that in some way all seek to harness and convert the energy of gyroscopes. Gyroscopes appear magical, and that's the attraction of them as children's toys. But the gyroscopic forces that allow them to defy gravity for as long as they keep spinning can be extremely powerful forces indeed.
When I was in the Royal Air Force, I had the occasion to remove a gyroscope after a flight of Vulcan bomber. I removed the gyroscope from its housing, or from its mounting, and backed down the ladder with it. I turned around sharply, not by a great amount either, and the thing threw me on my back. Now, it's quite a little device, 3 or 4 inches in diameter, but the power was quite frightening.
And this is one of the machines that Sandy's built. Basically, a couple of flywheels linked to a model aircraft engine for this display purpose. Now, if this were to rotate around the axis, then suddenly centrifugal forces would try and move those wheels out. But if you start rotating those flywheels at the same time as all that's happening, then suddenly gyroscopic forces come into play that try and force those wheels inwards.
Recently, a Mill Intel connected source conveyed to me the following: reactionless drive. Look up Sandy Kid. As I've stated, there is more than one type of flight system in use. As strange as it may seem, there is a type that remains stationary during flight sequence. Anything NASA publishes is just for show and tell. I had sent him a new Atlas article, which I'll quote from, but now a NASA study has concluded that a type of spacecraft propulsion is able to generate thrust without propellant. This appears to violate the law of conservation of momentum. In other words, if no mass is being injected from the system, where is the thrust coming from? Where is the equal and opposite reaction? So we're shown this satellite appearing device, which has a cavity for thrust resonance. According to its inventor, U.S. scientist Guido Fetta, the thruster works as a resonating cavity for microwave radiation. The cavity redirects the radiation pressure to create an unbalanced force, and that force produces a net thrust. The system has many striking similarities with the M drive, designed by British aerospace engineer Roger Shawyer, although the explanation that Shawyer provides for the working mechanism is quite different from Fetta's or NASA's. According to one peer-reviewed paper, the M drive thruster is able to produce 720 millinewtons of thrust from an electricity input of 2.5 kilowatts. This article introduces us to propulsion systems conveyed either by ions or by microwaves. The Mill Intel connected source says, sightings. Have you ever heard of a reactionless drive? They've been around since the 1970s. MIC has had his hands all over technology at least since then. Elon will have a better way for space exploration than NASA. SpaceX has been around for a fraction of the time NASA has, and yet here they are all caught up. Fraction of the money, fraction of the time.
Just why and how Dean's space drive system works gets complicated fast. But, in simple terms, by use of his oscillating mechanism, he has managed to polarize centrifugal force in 2 alternate horizontal directions. Then, by means of his solenoid-activated clutch, he has managed to grab the tail of the sliding oscillator during one direction phase and extract a burst of horizontal thrust in that direction. The important thing to remember, says Dean, is that centrifugal force of the spinning rotors on their axis in the oscillator, and not the oscillator itself, is really doing the work. The main problem with the Dean drive is the explanation using the centrifugal force, supposedly produced by the counter-rotating eccentrics of the oscillator. The idea of one-directional thrust, produced from an alternating force, is what causes consternation among some engineers. Action and reaction, they point out, are equal and in opposite directions, according to Newton. Even after 300 years, nobody knows how to explain the motion resulting from the unbalanced rotation, in conformity with the third law of motion.
For this demonstration, he's rigged a set of pulleys, string, and a bucket full of nails and metal to exactly balance the weight of his device. Once in equilibrium, he starts the model aircraft motor to keep the gyros spinning. If those spinning forces get converted into linear momentum, he believes his device will rise against gravity. Professor Salter at Edinburgh University would like to run tests on inventions like this to answer once and for all whether nearly every physicist since Newton has got a basic piece of physics quite wrong, or whether there's a riddle in what Sandy Kidd's doing that hasn't been explained yet.
We may be in the midst of externalization of the hidden tech. Stay tuned, we'll see where these revelations go. Ciao.